Welcome to this continuation of Jira for Beginners. Jira is widely used by Agile teams to track, manage, and report on their work. In this course, we'll dive deep into how to use Jira for project management, focusing on both team-managed and company-managed projects. You'll learn how to create projects, customize workflows, manage backlogs, use Scrum boards, and more. Why is this important? Jira helps teams stay aligned, transparent, and agile. Whether you're a developer, project manager, QA engineer, or a business analyst, knowing how to navigate and configure Jira can dramatically increase your productivity and ensure smoother collaboration. The following chapters are each designed to give you a thorough understanding of a specific topic. This course is hands-on, and we encourage you to follow along in your own Jira instance. By the end, you'll have both the knowledge and confidence to use Jira effectively for any kind of project. Before you can even create a project in Jira, you'll be asked to choose between a team-managed and a company-managed project. But how do you know which one to pick? Let's start with a real-world scenario. Imagine you're part of a small startup. Your team needs to set up a project management tool quickly with minimal dependency on the IT department. You want the freedom to customize your workflow on the fly. In this case, a team-managed project is ideal. Now, let's contrast that with a larger organization where several departments use Jira. The company needs standardized workflows and controlled permissions. Here, a company-managed project is the better fit. Here is an example of a team-managed project. And here is an example of a company-managed project. They look very similar. They both contain issues and a backlog, and they support grouping issues into sprints. Where they differ is in the details of workflows, or the options for which statuses an issue can move into given its current status, and they differ in permission schemes, or who has access to change what. Team-managed projects are easy to set up and flexible. They're ideal for independent teams that want to manage their own boards, issue types, and workflows. You don't need to involve a Jira admin, making it perfect for small or fast-moving teams, or for a project that is going to follow an atypical workflow compared to how most projects in the company work. Company-managed projects, on the other hand, are configured by Jira administrators. They use global schemes for workflows, permissions, and fields. This makes them more suitable for large-scale operations where consistency and compliance are essential. Company-managed projects also offer more customization, at least by the Jira admin, for all the nitty-gritty Jira settings. Here's what to remember. Choose team-managed if your team needs agility and independence. You won't be able to customize everything, but you'll get plenty of features for a robust Jira experience. Choose company managed if your organization values standardization and centralized control. The Jira configs will be shared across all projects within the company. Understanding this difference early helps prevent headaches later when your project grows or you need to integrate with other. So that's a summary of the difference between team-managed and company-managed projects. Now let's create a team-managed project step by step. But first, why does this matter? Setting up your project correctly from the start gives your team a strong foundation. It ensures that the structure, permissions, and workflow support how your team actually works. I'm already on the Projects screen, so I can begin by clicking Create Project. You can also click on the sidebar, expand it if you have to, scroll down to Projects, and click the plus sign. Jira will show you a list of project templates like software development, marketing, and human resources. These templates span across the Jira family of products: Jira, Jira Service Management, and Jira Product Discovery. This course is focused on Jira, also known as Jira Software. It's the most often used Jira product. I'm going to click on Jira, and now I see a list of templates that use this product. I see Kanban, Scrum, and a whole bunch of other templates that use Jira software. Scrum and Kanban are two of the most popular templates. If you're not sure which to use, remember, Kanban is focused on continual delivery of a product, and Scrum focuses on sprints, time-boxed periods of time where work is done and then completed. I'm going to go ahead and click Scrum. I can read more about this template, make sure that it's going to fit my needs, and it does. So I'll click Use Template. Next, you'll need to choose between creating a team-managed project or a company-managed project. You learned about those options in the previous chapter. In short, choose team-managed if your team needs agility and independence from an admin-imposed standard structure. Choose company-managed if your organization values standardization and centralized control. I'll choose team-managed. Next, give your project a descriptive name. For example, I'm planning a music festival in a remote destination. That's what I'm going to use this project to track. It's going to be hot. So I'll enter music you'll really enjoy. That's the name of my festival, the Meyer Festival. Note that Jira will automatically generate a project key. You can change this if you'd like. Note that this key will be used throughout the interface. It's used much more than the project name, so make sure that you're happy with the key. Next, choose the access level. Open, meaning that anyone can edit this project. Limited, I can choose who can edit the project. And private, choose who can comment on and edit this project. I'm using the free version of Jira, so I only have one option: open. Now, don't worry, this doesn't mean that everyone on the internet can access my project. I still get to control who has access. I'll scroll down and across and click Next. Jira takes a few seconds to go ahead and create my project. From here, you can invite teammates, but I'll skip this for now. I'm now at my Scrum board and can start creating issues to plan my Meyer Festival. Key points to remember: choose the right template based on your team's workflow. Name your project clearly to avoid confusion, and ensure that you're happy with the project key. Access levels affect visibility and who can do what. If you're on a paid version, be intentional and choose the one that's right for your project. Setting up a project is the first step toward organized teamwork. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can create a team-managed project. Once you've done that, come on back here to learn more. See you soon. Now that your project is set up, let's take a tour. Why do this? Understanding the layout of your project helps you find what you need quickly and reduces frustration. To get to your project, expand the sidebar if you need to, scroll down to Projects, and expand that if you need to. Then click on your project. The main components you'll use are the board. This is where you visualize your tasks. Each card is an issue, and columns represent your workflow. In this example, to do, in progress, and done. The backlog is a prioritized list of work. You'll move issues from here into sprints. Reports, which I don't see listed here, but I can add it. I'll click on the plus sign to add to navigation, choose reports, and add to navigation. From reports, you can view sprint burndown charts, velocity reports, and lots of other metrics to help keep track of what's going on. You'll also access project settings. Where you can change information about your project. While I'm here, I'm going to choose a different icon. Expand the sidebar to see more project settings that you can access. There's lots to explore. I'm using this example project plan to plan my music festival. So the backlog might include issues like hire musicians, build temporary accommodations, and find a caterer. During sprint planning, you'll move some of those issues to the active sprint. As the sprint progresses, your team moves each issue from to do, to in progress, to done. This visual flow keeps everyone aligned. So remember, the board shows what's happening now. The backlog helps you plan what's next. And reports give you insight into how well your team is performing. Those are the main components of a Jira project. Now let's talk about creating issues, the core unit of work in Jira. Why are issues so important? They break down your team's goals into actionable tasks. Every story, bug, or task in your sprint is an issue. You might also hear this referred to as a work item. A work item and an issue refer to the same thing. There are two main ways to create an issue. From the global Create button, and also from the backlog. Let's walk through an example. This project is for planning a music festival, so I need to create work items or issues for all of the work that needs to be done to ensure a smooth, well-planned, and well-executed festival that everyone will enjoy. I will create work items for hire musicians and build accommodations and maybe figure out food. That's it. That's all you need to do to create an issue. Note that when you create an issue, you can select a type. The options that you see will depend on your project's configuration, but common issue types are task, bug, and story. If you've watched previous segments in this Jira Beginner series, you'll remember that a story is specific to the Agile methodology. It's like a task, but describes it from the user or customer's perspective. For example, figure out food as a task might look like finding someone to provide cheese sandwiches. But if I change this to a story, I can click on the little icon and change it to a story. The description might say something like, as a festival goer, I want to have access to lots of delicious food so that I can enjoy the music more. And click Save. You've just turned a piece of the project into a trackable task, in this case, a story. We'll look at creating issues more deeply in the Beginner 3 course, but for now, just know that issues can contain lots more information, like who is assigned to do the task, what the priority is, the story point estimate, which is an estimate of the level of effort involved to complete the work. And collaboration can happen within issues with lots of functionality for commenting, adding attachments, and links to resources needed to complete the work. There are also other, more advanced ways to create tasks. Forms can be created to make it easy for people outside the project to request work. Issues can also be created via email. But for the team working within Jira, remember that the two main ways are from the universal Create button and from within the backlog screen. If you haven't yet added any issues to your project, pause the video and add some. I'm sure you can think of a ton of work that needs to get done. I'll see you back here when you're ready to continue. Jira gives you the option to customize your team-managed project. Why customize? Well, every team is different. A development team might need code review steps. A marketing team might need approval statuses. But remember, Jira also gives you the option to select from lots of templates when creating a project. So it's worth exploring those templates because they've been used successfully by many, many teams. So you can avoid having to do lots of customization by choosing the best template for your project. Also, if you and your team are new to Jira and you find that out of the box, it doesn't 100% line up to the way that your team works, consider adapting your practices rather than diving into extensive customizations. The more you customize, the harder you'll find it is to debug issues that come up with your Jira instance, and the less you'll be able to rely on extensive documentation and support forms. But yes, you can absolutely customize your team-managed project. Among the most common things that you can customize are issue types, workflows, and fields. With issue types, you can add new types like client request or change request. And with workflows, you can add statuses and transitions that match your process. And fields, you can add custom fields like client name or operating system. Here's a real-world example. For my music festival, the Meyer Festival, I want to track customer complaints. Resolving the complaint might mean someone on my team having to create another task or story to actually resolve whatever the issue is. But the customer complaint part, that's really its own thing. So to create a custom issue type, I can open the sidebar if needed, scroll down to my project, click the three dots to the right of the project name, and select Project Settings. From here, I'll scroll down to Work Types and expand that, and click Add Work Type. I'll enter a name. I'll call it Customer Complaint. Enter a description. Let's see, this will be used to track customer reported issues, though there probably won't be many. I can change the icon. That seems like a good one. Click Select, and then Create. My issue type has been created. So a number of fields have been added by default. I see a summary, a description, status, assignee, labels, due dates, lots of kinds of things that I would expect. I can remove any fields that I don't need. I can also drag and drop to add or remove fields. Maybe I'll add priority. I also want to capture the ticket tier of the festival goer, so I know if they are a silver, gold, or VIP ticket holder. So there's no field for this. It's going to be custom. So I need to create my own field. So I'll scroll down and click Create a Field. This one is going to be a drop-down because there'll be a few options to choose from. So I'll click that. The field name I will call Ticket Tier. And I'll add some options. Let's see, this one will be silver, and I'll have a gold option and VIP. I can even modify the color. And here's my new field. I can edit it. Looks like I didn't quite get my color right. There I go. And I can move the field wherever I'd like. Finally, I'll save changes. My issue type has been updated. Now, when I create an issue, in the work type, I should see customer complaint listed as an option. Let's see, maybe someone is going to say, my tent is leaking. And here's my new ticket tier field. This person is a gold ticket holder. I can create that ticket. Let me go back to my project. Look in the backlog. And here's my issue. With my color coding applied. You can add and remove fields from any of the other issue types by going back into project settings, clicking work types, and selecting the one that you want to modify. You can add or remove fields from any of these issue types. You can also modify the workflow. Let me do this for my customer complaint work type. So let me leave here. Let me go back to my project. I'll go to my project settings, work types, customer complaint, and I want to edit the workflow. For my customer complaint issue type, I don't want new issues to automatically be considered to do. They need to be reviewed by someone on my team first to review if additional work is warranted. So I will add a status for review. So I'll click Add Status for review. Doesn't look like it exists yet. So I'll create a new status. And the status category that it will fall under is To Do. And I'll click Add. It places it randomly on the workflow, but I'm going to put it here. So from start, the first status that it goes to is for review. I'll click Update Workflow. And note that this workflow will be applied to all issue types, unless I take action. So I really only want this to apply to my customer complaint. But if I remove all issue types except customer complaint, this is going to create an issue for my board. For example, let me go to my board. Because this new workflow has this step of for review, that doesn't quite line up with the columns that I already have on my board. So because it won't have the same workflow as everything else, it's going to get confusing. Jira works best when all issues in a project go through the same workflow. A better solution for what I'm trying to do to track customer complaints is to create a new project for customer reported issues. And I bet there's a template available with a workflow already created for that kind of customer initiated issue. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel and discard these changes. So remember, start simple and set yourself up for success by choosing the best template for your project. Try using the template as is for a bit before customizing. Know that you can customize issue types and even create your own as needed. And be careful about customizing workflows. Remember that Jira works best when all issues in a project go through the same workflow. If you've been using Jira for a bit and have identified some customizations that make sense for your team, pause the video and try making those changes. When you come back, we'll talk about company-managed projects. Let's talk about setting up a company-managed project. This is for organizations that need control, consistency, and collaboration across many teams. Why use a company-managed project? Because it allows you to enforce best practices, share configurations, and manage permissions at scale. The process for creating a company-managed project is the same as for creating a team-managed one. The key difference in the result is that company-managed projects rely on schemes, which are shared configurations that include workflows, the processes for moving issues from one status to another, permission schemes, who can do what, notification schemes, who gets emails when issues change, and screen schemes, which fields are shown when creating, viewing, or editing issues. For example, a company might have a standard software development workflow used across all engineering teams. New projects can inherit this without having to set it up again. That's a good use for company-managed projects. The music festival example that I'm using and have used in the previous chapters needs a website to promote the event and sell tickets. So I will create a company-managed project for this. I'll click on the sidebar to expand it, scroll down to Projects, click the plus sign to create a project. I'll choose Software Development. I'm going to choose Scrum. That'll be a good fit for this project. I'll scroll down, click Use Template, and select Company Managed Project. I'll give it a name. This is going to be for my Meyer Festival website. For the key, well, that's okay, but the key for my Meyer project is MYRE, so I think I want this one to have MYRE and then the word web, and that'll kind of help me clue me in that these are related. I'll scroll down and click Next. Wait a few moments while Jira creates this project. Hey, it was successfully created. If I view all projects, I'll now see it listed. Remember, you can change lots of things about this project, but I'll leave all this for now and we'll explore this later. Note that company managed projects use configs controlled by your Jira admin. They're ideal for scaling consistent processes across teams. From my projects screen, I see, well, a list of projects. I see the name, the key, and the type. Here's where I can easily identify if a project is company managed or team managed. I got to this page by expanding the sidebar, scrolling down to Projects, clicking the three dots, and then clicking Manage Projects. Once your company managed project is created, it's time to get familiar with its structure. Let me click on the one that we just created in the previous chapter. You'll see a board, which is labeled Active Sprint because I used the Scrum template for this project. If I chose Kanban, this would say board. I see backlog. This is where I can add issues to the backlog and group issues into sprints. And I see reports, which includes burn down chart and velocity chart and cumulative flow diagram. And I can also access project settings. From the sidebar, scroll down to the project, and click Project Settings. Here is where admins can configure this project. While I'm here, let me go ahead and change the icon. There are lots of project settings that can be adjusted. Priorities, workflows, screens, fields, settings, and components. Also note that your access and visibility may be limited by permissions. If something looks different, check with your Jira admin. In short, navigation of company-managed projects is similar to team-managed projects. Many of the same elements exist, but the settings and structures are admin-controlled in a company-managed project. Let's now create a Scrum board. But first, why Scrum? Scrum is an agile framework designed for iterative development. A Scrum board in Jira helps visualize work within a sprint track team velocity, and manage commitments. If you already have a project that has a tab for active sprints, that tab is a Scrum board. The Active Sprints Scrum board shows all of the issues in this sprint. But you can create other Scrum boards for this project. Imagine that you manage all bug fixes, so it would be helpful to have a Scrum board that only shows bugs. Let's go ahead and create that Scrum board. To do that, expand the sidebar if needed. Go down to Projects and click the plus sign next to your project. In the Create a Board window, click Scrum. Give the board a name. I will call mine just Bugs. And then choose what to include in this board. I'm going to choose issue type because I will use issue type to control what's included on this board. And then I will select the issue type of bug and click Create. My Just Bugs board has been created. Here, I'm looking at the backlog, and the backlog is only showing me bugs. And when I click on Active Sprints, this Scrum board is only showing bugs. So when I create a new Scrum board, it's also filtering the backlog. Both the sprints and the backlog are filtered based on the criteria that I used when I created my board. You can also create a Scrum board that includes multiple company-managed projects so that you can see in one place the work across multiple projects. Why can't you include team-managed projects? Well, think about it for a second. You'll recall that company-managed projects follow a template. All projects have the same workflows and configs, but team-managed projects can have unique configs. In other words, if one set of projects has statuses of to do, doing, and done, and other projects have statuses of for review, pending, assigned, scheduled, well, you can't really line up a view of the work across projects. But let's make a Scrum board for all team-managed projects. This feature is a little hidden, but you can find it by clicking in the search bar, scrolling down, and clicking Go to All Boards. From here, click Create Board, create a Scrum board. I'm going to create a board from an existing project, which actually means one or more existing projects, and click Next. I will name my board All Team Managed. Then I'll select my projects. Note that only team-managed projects are listed in this dropdown. Next, I'll choose a location. This new board that I'm making can live within another project, or it can live in my personal space. Since it's going to span multiple projects, it really doesn't make sense for it to live within either project specifically, so I'll pick personal. And then finally, create board. Yeah, I've seen this happen before, but if I click refresh, Well, let me go to default view. Okay, here's my new Scrum board for all team managed. I can see issues in the current sprint. And if I look at the backlog, I can see this sprint and things that are in the backlog. But hey, looking at the keys, I notice these are all from the same projects. All from the same project, DPR. I think that's because my Meyer web project, the project to manage the website built to promote my music festival, doesn't have any issues yet. So let me take care of that just so we can see this board with multiple projects in action. So let me go to my other project. Go to the backlog. And let me add a few issues. What tasks need to get done for my music festival website? Well, let's see. We need to create some promo videos. We need to set up a shopping cart. Oh yeah, we're gonna need to connect credit card processing for sure. Okay, and let's see. I'll move these up into. I'm sorry. I'm going to create a sprint. Now I can take these 3 items and drag them into my sprint. And I'll go ahead and start this sprint. Sure, 2-week duration. That sounds good. Start it. Now, when I come back to my all team managed Scrum board and look at my active sprint, I now see issues from my web project as well. And when I look at the backlog, I'll see the sprint for the web project listed. So we just created a new Scrum board that spans multiple projects. Here's what's to remember. Scrum boards support iterative, sprint-based workflows. You can create multiple Scrum boards for any project to serve the specific needs of your team. And you can create boards that include work items from multiple company-managed projects. Now, let's explore the Scrum board itself, your team's mission control. Why is the Scrum board so important? Because it reflects what your team committed to deliver in a sprint and helps track progress in real time. Here's what you'll see on your Scrum board. You'll see columns that match your project's workflow. For example, to do, in progress, and done. If you've enabled a group, you'll see optional rows that group issues by assignee, priority, or other criteria. These are called swim lanes. Here, I can see DPR 10 is grouped with its subtasks. On your board, you will see issue cards. These are clickable items that show summaries, assignees, and priorities. If you change the status, this is DPR 15, the issue moves to the correct place in the workflow. Issues can also be dragged and dropped to change their status. The backlog is where you prioritize work and create sprints. we can create a new sprint here. And add items to it. So here are the key takeaways. The Scrum board maps your sprint commitments. Use it daily for stand-ups and progress reviews. Keep your board clean and up to date to reflect what's actually happening day to day. If you haven't explored Jira Scrum boards yet, pause the video and take some time to do that. Go into your backlog and add some sample issues, create a sprint, and add work items to that sprint. When you're done, come on back. Now that your Scrum board is live, it's time to make it your own. Why customize? Because every team has different needs for tracking, filtering, and viewing work. Here are the key areas you can tailor. You can filter by type. This means issue type. For example, view just the user stories, or just the bugs. Some quick filters are available. Choose Assign to Me to see just the issues that are, well, assigned to you. Oh, while we're here, if you want to see more, enter full screen to get rid of some of the extra navigational items so that you can see more of your board. The group setting allows you to create swim lanes or horizontal groupings. Here are all the issues assigned to Farmer Brown, and these are all the ones that are unassigned. You can also group by stories so that I can see a main task and the related subtasks. Grouping by projects only makes sense if the board is designed to show issues from more than one project. Click View Settings to see more options. For example, you can open work items in the sidebar, or turn that off for it to open up in a new window. You can choose which fields display. For example, I can turn off priority, and then that will disappear from my board. The information is still there in the card. I'm just hiding it from this view. You can also add columns. It's easy to do. Click the plus and add a column. For example, maybe quality assurance testing. That's a good spot for it. Before items are done, well, they need to get tested. Note that if I leave this column here, it's going to cause an issue if I have another Scrum board displaying items from multiple projects. For example, here's my board that shows multiple projects. It has it has columns for to do, in progress, and done. On my demo Scrum board, I just created this column for QA testing. If I move issue 15 from in progress to testing, I see issue 15 here from in progress. And I refresh my all team managed board. Issue 15 is no longer in progress, but it's not done either. It's disappeared kind of into the ether. I mean, it didn't really disappear. It's still here. If I move it back to in progress and refresh my all team managed board, There it is again. So just be cautious. For company-managed projects, it's really best to use standard workflows across projects. But if your project needs a special workflow, that's a good reason to make it a team. But if your team needs a special workflow, that's a good reason to make it a team-managed project. So all this customization ensures that your board reflects how you actually work. Remember, align your board with your process, use filters to reduce noise and focus your view, and show the right info on cards for quicker decision-making. I invite you to pause the video and take a few minutes to tweak the configurations on one or more of your boards, so you see the info that is most relevant for the way that you and your team work. When you're done, come on back and we'll dig even deeper into Scrum board customization. Let's go even deeper into Scrum board customization. These advanced features help improve team performance and predictability. You can access additional settings in the sidebar menu. Find your project, then your board, click on the three dots to the right, and select Board Settings. Change the name of the board, the administrator, and even move the board to another project. This Scrum board is about this project, so I'll leave it here. Board Filter controls which items show up in this board. I'll leave this as is as well. We'll cover Jira's query language in another course. It's pretty powerful. I'll go back to the sidebar to access more features. Working days. These settings affect reports and other features that deal with dates and elapsed time. You can set your time zone to your local region and time zone. Select what the standard working days are for your team, and configure specific holidays. Again, getting these settings right will help with the functionality that's related to reporting on time-based elements and elapsed time. Estimation. If you're new to Agile, you might be used to estimating how long a task will take by thinking about it in terms of hours or days. Jira supports this, but consider looking into story points, which is an Agile concept. Story points are often based on a Fibonacci sequence, so 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, maybe that's where most teams stop. Story points don't correspond to a specific number of hours. Rather, they describe the relative level of effort anticipated to complete the task. There are some general guidelines you can find on the web about what kind of task might be a 1 versus an 8, but ultimately, an Agile team develops criteria that make sense for the project. Once a team spends some time working together, they can get a pretty good sense of how many story points they can complete in a sprint, which is really useful for sprint planning. In the layout section, you can control columns. There are configurations related to columns and statuses and workflow types. Proceed with caution here. Changes here can have unintended consequences, and it can be hard to find answers to your questions online when you have lots of custom columns and statuses and workflows. Let's look at some other options. You can create a column constraint based on issue count. So, for example, I can limit my in-progress issue count to, say, 5 items. so no more than 5 items can be in progress at any given time. That's usually applicable to a Kanban board. That's kind of fundamental to the Kanban approach. I'm using a Scrum board here, so I'll back this out. Swim lanes. You can change some default settings for how the swim lanes are grouped on your board. Card colors. I find this useful. So I can assign card colors based on priorities. So cards with the highest priority will be red and the lowest, this light gray. Now that I've turned on that setting, let me refresh my board. And there it is. I can see the color coding. I will also see that color coding when I look at the backlog. The card layouts section has configuration options for controlling which fields you see on certain screens. So for example, I can add fields to the backlog screen. Maybe it would be useful to see the name of the reporter. So I'll add that and click Save. If I refresh my backlog screen, now I see the name of the reporter, Farmer Brown. Wow, Farmer Brown reported a lot of issues. I can see that's not really useful in my case, so I'll go ahead and remove that. That looks better for me. So, in short, there are lots of customizations that you can make. Jira works great with all of the default configurations, and I recommend that you and your team spend some time using it with those default settings to get started. But once you're familiar with how Jira works, know that there are lots of ways that you can tweak your board to suit the way that you and your team works. Congratulations! You've completed this Jira training course. Let's review what we've learned. You now understand the difference between team-managed and company-managed projects. You can confidently create and navigate both types of projects. You know how to create and manage issues. You've built and personalized a Scrum board that reflects your team's Agile practices. Remember, Jira is a powerful tool that's built to support teams that use an Agile methodology. Using the default settings and templates will jumpstart your Jira adoption. And once you're ready to customize Jira to better support your project and your team, there are lots of ways that you can do that. Thank you for joining this course. Happy issue tracking and good luck with your Jira journey.